everybody. Welcome to the SnoWest Show. I'm Ryan Harris. Real quick before we get into this episode, the SnoWest Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. The Polaris Gift the Outdoor Holiday Sales Event is going on right now. Find the perfect gift for your loved one or for a Polaris fanatic with offers up to $3,000 off on select mountain sleds at your local Polaris dealer. Also, right now, you can take $50 off $250 purchase or $150 off a $750 purchase on all parts, accessories, and gear during the Gift the Outdoors Holiday Sales Event. Go see your local Polaris dealer to gear up for this upcoming riding season. Also sponsoring the show is 320 Guest Ranch, located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from Buck Ridge and Carrot Basin. 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling trip. Single cabins, large cabins. These full cabins have kitchens available. Check it out at 320ranch.com. Thanks also to Fly Racing for sponsoring the show and helping us bring this content to you. Fly Racing is the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they bring that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has got you covered for your snowmobiling gear head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or at Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thanks to Deviant Ink for supporting the show. Head on over to deviantink.com, check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Ink designs in the colors that you've selected. Check that out more at deviantink.com. Thanks for being a listener. Now on to the show. We're recording. I'm going to put that one right there on that soundbite button. All right. Welcome to the SnoWest Show. We are down here at the Utah Snowmobile Show. We've got Justin Stevens and Bruce Kerbs here. SnoWest Test Riders. And, this is the first time we've gotten together since the summer. You just finished getting all your potatoes out of the ground. You just wrapped up a mansion on the home tour, southeastern Idaho.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
The mini White House.
Yeah. We're all ready to go snowmobiling, though.
Where's the rest of the crew?
They're working.
Is there a rest of the crew these days?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Brock's probably
Brock's chasing rodeos.
around.
Brock's chasing his horse.
Yeah.
He's winning stuff. Like
He is.
Kind of the real deal.
he is.
Like you don't know it.
Yeah. He's won a couple saddles and some money.
Yeah.
Cash money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can buy the gas this year.
Yeah.
It's funny he can show up to a rodeo like that. He's pretty good at roping, but you can show up to a rodeo like that and take home more money than one of the guys that goes and wins the Grimshaw Hill Climb.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a weekend, just load the horse.
Just by tackling a cow to the ground.
No, roping it. Didn't he just rope it?
He's a healer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's good. Yeah, he won a saddle at the Eastern Idaho State Fair. Rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Maybe we just don't know how big of a celebrity he really is.
Well, we should ask him. I'm sure he'll tell us.
And Rhett, what's he doing? Delivering packages?
I'm sure he's cursing out traffic right now.
Loving the
Red
college
Bull
kids.
in one hand and
The finger flying in the
AC/DC
other
going in the AirPods.
The finger flying in the other hand.
That FedEx horn just blaring as loud as it'll go. Oh, man.
Gotta love him.
So, Justin, we were talking a minute ago. We don't really have like a show outline planned here, but we're in an off year. Like it's no secret. Like people probably want to pretend that we're not, just so people don't realize that we're not. But we are. Like we're kind of headed into a down year because the COVID surge is over. Like supply caught up with demand, and now there's too much stuff. Like there's so much. I don't know what the actual number is, but there's a lot of carryover inventory, and it's caused budget cuts and layoffs and. The discounts are starting to show up. They're not as extreme as they probably need to be to get that stuff cleared out.
Right.
But you've been on the marketing side. You ran marketing for Motorfest for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we were talking about just how sometimes these companies just do the backwards approach in a year like this.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like I know that it's hard to allocate dollars to marketing materials and going to shows and things like that because it's an easy way to cut and show that there's a savings. I guess it's easy to say, hey, if we don't go out to the snowmobile show, we don't take this many trailers and trucks and freight those out there. It's easy to quantify that amount, but it's hard to know what that's costing you. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's what I struggle with. I mean, we don't have a presence at a show like this in this segment. I mean, it kind of looks like maybe you're not here. You just didn't show up.
Well, we're talking about that because one of the big changes to the Utah Snowmobile Show this year is Skidoo Skidoo used to have like the big 50 by 50 island right inside the front door, and this year, in that same manner, like a budget cut to save money,
Right.
they have like a 10 by 30 booth in here with about 5 snowmobiles in it, no turbos, no clothing, no ambassadors. It's a stark change, and we were talking about the message that ultimately sends, and it doesn't look like you're here to support the riders in the area necessarily in that regard, but
well, and I think it kind of looks too like, hey, if you want to sell sleds, like, be here. We're number one. We're the best. This is the sled that you want. It doesn't take very many units, even at closeouts, to try and help eliminate your inventory issues. Or I don't know. That's how I've always seen it. It seems like that's almost a time when you'd maybe want to double down into a market like this. The mountain segment is deceptively large, numbers-wise. As far as number of riders, I don't know that it's as big as some of the Midwestern markets like we talked about, but I think the money that's spent in the mountain segment is significantly higher. Most of the guys that I know, they'll buy a sled every year, maybe every other year. They don't buy used sleds, they buy brand new sleds, and I know not everybody does that, but that does have a trickle-down effect for others that are buying them even used from those guys. So I feel like it's bigger than it looks like on paper. Yeah. And I think that's why it's deceptive.
And I know the Midwest has in a lot worse shape than the West is, because last year they just didn't get snow. It's easy for us out West to say, yeah, we had a terrible snow year. We only had 5 feet of snow.
Right.
In December.
We had a few less days that were deep. So
yeah, and ultimately,
we always have snow.
Ultimately last season, we were riding the same 1.5 foot of snow until early February.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden winter hit, and it was just as deep as ever.
Yeah.
After that, obviously that's a little late for the buying season
for sure
for all these people. But,
help sales.
but when the Midwest,
didn't get any. In some
if you have zero and then you get half of what you normally get, which is half of zero, like you just have you're mowing your lawn in January.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has had a significant effect, probably more than we can recognize on maybe some of the decision making for not coming out to the West snowmobile shows. So
well, and a lot of things you hear in the market is we're going to scale back. We're going to take our budget for going to shows, and we're going to scale back, and we're going to go to the Eastern shows because the Eastern shows draw a bigger crowd, which they do. That population centers are a lot bigger out there than they are out at any of the shows out West.
Right.
And so you'll pull in, Heydays probably claims 50, 60,000 people.
Yeah.
You got Novi, Michigan. You got a lot of big events out there that pull a lot of people. But you look back in the West, since 2011, the number one selling snowmobile in the industry has been a mountain sled for the most part. And the top 5 top selling snowmobiles in the industry, I think pretty much since 2011 also, the top 5, maybe 4 out of 5 have been mountain snowmobiles.
Huh.
So, yeah, you come back to the Western market, more of the people that are enthusiasts here are turning over a new product every single year.
Yeah.
Where in the East, there's in the Midwest and East, there's definitely more snowmobilers per capita, but those guys, like you were saying, are buying a new snowmobile every 5 years, 3 years, 10 years.
Yeah, and I don't know the numbers, so I don't profess to know what they're actually looking at. But like for you to say, I was just thinking that before you said that. But if there truly are, if the mountain segment truly is winning out in total units sold, then yeah, I think you need to be here and support this market and look bigger than you are. I think there's something. I remember we've talked about this a lot with different manufacturers that we ride with, and we ride their new sleds, and it seems like so many times, maybe you remember them asking this question, they're like, well, how do we get more exposure? How do we get them to try ours for the first time? It's like, you got to be here. You got to show that everybody wants to be on a Skidoo, and unfortunately, you do kind of sometimes have to look bigger and badder than the others. It's a lot of appearance.
Yeah, it's a lot of image stuff too, and I bring this up because we were looking at our Facebook. I think it was on Facebook or Instagram last night. Some people were going back and forth talking about Skidoo not being here the way that they normally are in the West, and I know they're not doing all of the Western shows the same manner. Like they've cut out corporate booths and everything, but that's a little behind the scenes. But when people that come to this event, the Utah Snowmobile Show, start talking about that, it's not just me talking about it as a person who's putting on the show. It's customers coming saying, man, why is Skidoo just doing a 10 by 30 with 5 snowmobiles in it and not a turbo to be found? Like that's what is a little worrisome to me. Like it just raises some alarm bells. But
Well, and maybe it doesn't have as big of an effect as maybe just somebody taking notice, but I don't know. It's kind of a finicky market. I mean, everybody wants to be cool. They want to be on the best. They want to, have the best solution for them. So I just think you got to be in front of them. And it's interesting. The people that are coming to this show, there's a lot of people, and you can tell they're enthusiasts for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not anybody coming in here. Nobody's jumping over here from the Disney Expo.
No. Is that what's next door?
Yeah. But I mean, everybody I've seen walk through here, or most everybody I've seen walk through here, I mean, you can tell they're here to get some gear. They're here to check out the new stuff. And I know for me, I've been to some shows where stuff doesn't show up. It's a little disappointing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to see, touch, and feel, see what they look like. Maybe it affects my buying decision this year, or maybe it even affects it next year. But
yeah. Yeah, and I know it affects every show, and we go through these cycles. We've gone through this kind of a cycle before, a low snow year combined with supply-demand issues. And you get through it. It's just interesting to see the cycle starting again, and what's happening.
Yeah.
Like Polaris is here in full sport. They've got their big 50x50 booth. They got a semi-trailer in there. It's kind of a cool setup.
Yeah.
But it does send a message that, hey, we're not giving up on you. We're not ignoring you just because we need to save money. Kind of interesting, but.
Yeah.
One other thing that I wanted to get on here and talk to you about, where we're just kind of the test riding crew. Last year we did a show where each of us on the snow test staff kind of picked 4 sleds. If we had a 4-place trailer, we needed to, go grab 4 brand new sleds, stick them in a 4-place trailer. What would you guys put in there? So it's kind of a very brief review pod, just talking about what stands out. What was your favorite sled? What would you take as your number 1, 2, 3, 4? What do you think, Bruce?
Remember what you said last year?
Let me check my email.
I was trying to remember.
Well, the beauty of it is all 3 manufacturers, I feel like, have something great.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows I'm a cat guy, but just the past few years, I've really enjoyed riding the Skidoo and the Polaris. So, honestly, I mean, you got to go with the new thing. I got to have an 858 in the trailer. Right, it's the newest thing, coolest thing, supposedly. Next, I'd probably go. And these, do you want them in order, or not necessarily?
I don't. However you spit them out. Yeah.
All right.
It'd be interesting if they were in order.
Dang, now that changes things. So we'll go cat first.
Are you going cat first because you actually have a cat? Like you bought an 850?
I don't have it yet. It's still in the box.
But you ordered one.
Yeah.
It's already in the trailer.
It's already in the trailer.
So it has to be number 1.
No. Okay. All right. We're going in order. All right. I actually really like the Skidoo Expert, the 155. Turbo, non-turbo, they're both great. I mean, being on a turbo, it's the only way to go. So we'll go Skidoo Expert Turbo.
What, track length? 54?
54. Yep. 54.
3-inch or 2.5-inch?
3.5 or 3.
3-inch?
3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
Oh, we're going 3.5.
Huh? All right.
I'm going to add a little bit.
Game on. I'm taking a 4-incher, by the way.
Okay, so we'll go that, and then I'll go the Catalyst, the 858. And then I really enjoyed the Polaris last year.
Oh, hold on. A little more detail on the Catalyst. What model did you order? Because you legit have one.
Well, I'm one of the Valley farmers. So I'm on a budget. So, no, I just got the basic, the black and red one, the stock one. Didn't need the big screen.
So that's just the, what do you call that one? The Alpha one?
Yeah, I believe so.
Because the green one is the Snow Pro, and the blue one is the Mountain Cat.
Yep. So the Alpha one.
Yeah.
Yep. Basic shocks.
And that's in a 54 as well?
54. Yep.
3.5 on there?
Yes. Yep, 3.5 on
just
that one also.
3.5 across the board.
People are going to be like, wait, 3.5? Yeah, so I didn't need the big screen, and maybe I'll, wish I had it. Electric start is getting nicer the older I get, but I left it off too just for weight savings. So, yeah, just the basic catalyst. So.
Okay, let me pause you there. We're only to 2 of your 4.
Okay.
But that you mentioned the big screen. Like, you don't necessarily want that. So we do a lot of stuff like on the truck side of things. I've got a buddy that's a Ford engineer. He's on the Super Duty team. Mm-hmm. He's like the number 2 engineer on the Ford Super Duty team. He's a snowmobiler, David, diehard sledder, Skidoo rider, and then the guy that runs the IllumiDuty account, Steven. So we talk about trucks all the time, and And one of the conversations we had a little while ago was there's a lot of, and you see it on social media, and Stephen posts about it a lot on Illuminati. There's a lot of features that nobody wants that you have to have on your truck anymore. And it's adding to the cost of the truck, and it's maybe stuff that you don't necessarily need and you're not going to use, but there's also some stuff you just don't flat out want.
Right.
Because it causes issues. If you go and change your suspension, now you got some electronics things that aren't talking to each other anymore because they're disconnected, and it creates lights on your dash and and things that buzz and ding at you all the time. And I was thinking, man, that's not too dissimilar from snowmobile stuff, because everybody went to this big display gauge craze, and some are heavier than others, but some add 8 or 9 pounds to the snowmobile. Some add 10, some are a little less than that. But in my opinion, I'm the same way. I'm not looking at my gauge unless my snowmobile's going brrr. Then I'm looking at the gauge.
Yep. Something's wrong.
And I'm looking at the
and
fuel.
you're looking at
Yeah,
RPMs.
I'll check my
that's
RPM
all
and
I'm
everything.
looking at.
Yeah,
And the fuel gauge.
but man, I don't want 10 extra pounds for a big three color iPad on my sled. Me personally, I know a lot of people do, and they don't really care about the weight savings.
Right.
But I don't want electric start because I don't want 20, 25 pounds.
Yep.
I don't want a gauge because I don't want 10 pounds. There's 30, 35 pounds.
Yeah.
On a snowmobile, and that's going to make the ride a lot better throughout the day, and then that equates to a better experience the whole season long because I'm not working on all extra weight.
For sure.
I wonder if you should do a poll about that.
Yeah, maybe we should.
No, I'm really curious. Because I think the same way. I'm like, I don't look at it. I mean, like you said, I don't go up a steep mountain or across the side hill and sit there and look at my gauge, see how fast I'm going through the trees. I'm not.
Well, some of them going through the trees or down the. You can't read them anyway.
Yeah, they're covered in snow. Yeah, hopefully you're in deep enough snow you can't actually see the.
Well,
display,
I mean, even down the trail though. It's hard to read when you're.
Right.
So
I don't know. I'm actually really curious. Like,
yeah,
is it just
there's a poll there for sure.
Few, or is it a majority that really would rather not?
And maybe ask them, what are your reasonings for having that big? Like, what is your main? Is it because it looks cool? Is it because of what everybody's doing?
I know, like, Ride Command on the 7S is really cool, and people love that. And that's kind of what started the craze. Is Polaris came out with the 7S gauge, and now you can see your buddy's
and that is
location.
probably the coolest feature, I think.
I don't necessarily want to know where you're at, though.
He doesn't want to come help pull you out. He wants to be able to be like, I couldn't find you, Bruce. I didn't know where you were.
Sorry, man.
Now I know why he ignores me when I call for help.
No, I'm kidding, obviously, but yeah, I got a little weird audio going there, but
I do wonder though. I mean, that's why I'm asking about the poll, because I mean, I think there's a segment of riders that that's probably one of the last things they'd look at. They ride in an area they're used to riding in. They know where everybody's at all the time. They're used to riding. And then there's probably a whole segment that really loves the fact that they can see whether it be all your kids or family or maybe other riders, and maybe you don't really ride that hard, so that is a big deal to you. I don't know. I'm genuinely curious.
Can you go in, and I haven't messed around with them, so I apologize, but can you go in and map your route on some of them?
Yeah, on some of them you can. And actually, there's something called hotspots, or what is it? Heat zones.
Yeah.
So the 7S display will show a heat zone, and you can download your map and you can send it to your buddy, and that's what we're seeing a lot of, like in our backyard up and down the Park West Yellowstone. We're seeing riders from out of state, and I don't care, it's public land, come and do whatever you want, sharing their riding zones. And then you plug it into your sled, and your sled will guide you right into that zone that you couldn't have gotten to otherwise because you're not necessarily experienced or familiar with terrain. So there's the heat zone mapping that shows where everybody's riding. So you can, it is a cool feature. Granted, it's a really cool feature. It helps you access terrain that you probably didn't know existed, little riding zones and all that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a safety aspect to it of being able to see your group. Like, I'm not going to discount that. We're promoting avalanche safety and just backcountry safety and everything. But
yeah, that's true.
But on the other side of that too, like we were out in Valcour 3 weeks ago, touring the Skidoo factory and meeting with the engineering team out there. Really cool experience. But every time we get together with the engineering team from whatever company we're with, they always ask for, like, okay, what can we do better? What needs to happen on our snowmobiles over the next 5 years, the next year? Right. And we always are pushing, like, make them lighter, especially with Skidoo. It's like, man, you guys have the engine package. Yep. You've got the throttle response package. It's easy to ride. You got great suspension. You're just heavier. You're heavier across the board on everything. And I can't remember if I was supposed to say this or not, but I'm going to say it. Like one of the conversations went like, you just got to get lighter. And they're like, how do we get lighter? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm the idiot podcast journalist
Figure
guy.
it out.
and Fred Desjardins, the guy who's in charge of Skidoo development over there, was like, hey, it's going to take a couple years, but we're going to make our sleds lighter, and then we're going to make them lighter the next year. We're going to make them lighter the year after that until we're the lightest snowmobile in the market.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, there we go. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, when we turn around, we show up to an event, and they're like, here, test these snowmobiles, and they have electric start on them. I'm like, why? Like it's 25 pounds heavier than it should be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And when I order a snowmobile, I try to order it with just the cheap gauge, the base gauge, just to be lightweight. But anyway, totally derailed your top
you're
four.
good. No, it was a good topic to derail on.
So number 3.
Number 3, Polaris 9R with the 3 1/4 inch track, 155. Just a fun sled.
Yeah.
Right out of the box, stock, no turbo, runs great. Just I don't know. I just really enjoyed that sled last year. Handles really well, side hills. I love the 3 1/4 inch track.
So what is it about the 9R that makes you pick that over a Boost?
I've always been a stock guy, and I love to see what I can do against a bigger sled, like if you go up against a turbo or if you can get to a place where a turbo can go. And I feel like that 9R can do that in some places. I know a lot of it depends on rider. But I don't know, I've just always liked the stock sleds. I'm getting to like the turbos more because they are fun. But I feel like you can do more on a stock sled in different snow conditions versus a turbo can get a little gnarly.
But on a Skidoo, you said, well, turbo's better, so I got to have turbo.
Yeah. Why you got to ask me these questions? It's what I want. No. I don't know. I just like that 9R, the way it pulls, and I guess Polaris turbos are growing on me, but I don't feel like maybe they're dialed in as much as the Skidoo yet, and maybe that's why. But
and is this a Chaos or a Pro?
Probably Chaos.
Why?
I don't know, just seems easier to ride and flip around and throw around and side hill, and just seems easier.
Yeah.
Everything seems easier on it.
All right, number 4.
Number 4. That's a good question.
200.
Yeah, the little 200 for the way back home. I'd probably go with the free ride. Just
Really?
the free ride 146. Just for them days where you just need to go wheelie all over and have fun. And
this one's a turbo also?
yeah, this turbo also. Yep.
So if it's Polaris, it's NA for you.
Yep.
If it's Skidoo, it's turbo.
Yeah. Yep. That free ride was awesome last year.
Yeah, it was
That's so much fun. That 146.
Yeah.
And probably because the snow conditions weren't great, until February. So that shorter track just felt like you were on a longer track.
Yeah.
It was a fun sled.
All right, Justin. Top 4.
That got me thinking now.
And these don't have to be like the top 4 snowmobiles that we think are the top 4 in the market. This is
Just
just
what you'd have in
personal
your
preference
trailer.
as a test rider.
Yeah. I think my number 1, I'd put a 9R Chaos 155 3 1/4 in the trailer. That'd probably be my, like if I had to pick. I've actually been asked this I don't know how many times just the last couple of months, and I'm like, they're like, would you do the Boost or would you do the 9R? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I keep thinking like I do love the Boost, and I would put a Boost in my trailer, but I don't know. I think I would probably, if I could just pick one sled to ride all year long and have it be good in all conditions, that'd probably be the first one I put in there. And then behind that, probably the that's a tough.
Yamaha don't make anymore.
What's that?
Yamaha don't make one anymore.
I know. I think after that,
we still have a Yamaha at Rexford Motorsports.
Yeah, that's true. We can still put that in there.
It's got low miles.
We can put that in your 4th.
It's probably not ready to be picked up yet, but it's still there.
It's close.
Still waiting on parts. I think the second one, that'd be tough. I'd probably be a toss-up between the free ride, but I think I'd do... I don't
Today,
know.
Justin.
I think I'd do a 154 free ride.
Turbo?
Turbo.
Why
So
I don't know.
Why
I mean, I love the
154?
146 just because I remember last year we went on a couple rides. I mean, you're just wheeling. Even jumping it was just so fun because you just – so I don't know.
It's flickable.
Torn on that one.
Oh, wait. wrong brand.
Can it be flickable if it's a Skidoo?
I don't know.
But I also riding the 154. I mean, that'd be a great everyday sled. Just a lot of fun. Probably be a toss-up between that one and an Expert. I think, again, in the shorter track. And then probably a Polaris Boost 163. 3 1/4.
Chaos?
Chaos. Yeah, I like the Chaos. It's the fun factors.
Why
It's
3
more
1/4? Like,
Did you say
neither of you picked
I love
175.
that track.
Did you say 163?
Yeah.
Long one.
Yeah. I don't think that I really don't feel like there's that much difference, but like for the 9R, that'd be one that I just go play in the trees, do side hills everywhere and stuff. And so to me, it's just a little quicker and easier to maneuver in tight trees. The Boost, I actually don't see myself. I'd still ride that anywhere, but I don't mind having the extra length. If you're gonna have the turbo, you might as well have a 163, and that way I don't get ran over like Cardi. My Cardi.
Those will still come over, just not as quick.
But yeah, I would, and probably a Chaos. I did ride a Pro 163 Boost, and that was probably one of the funnest. I just kept making laps up just because you just laugh the whole way up the hill because I mean it just ripping up through the trees. And you can make sharp turns, and it just was super stable. But I still think I'd put a Chaos in. I don't know. There's something I like the Pro models, but the fun factor. I guess I shouldn't say that. It's not. They're still fun. It's just a different ride. Like you just don't get the front end coming up as much, and it changes how you ride it a little bit. So I think I've spent a lot of time on the Chaos, so I'm probably more comfortable on that now. So.
I do like the Pro though, like you were talking about, just going up on a 163 Pro. Like they're still quite a bit different between a Pro and a Chaos, even though they went to the same rail configuration. Like they combined a few parts, and so the rail approach angle degree and all that is not as different as it was when the Chaos and Pro first were separated. But there's still a difference, still a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
But the Pro is just like driving up.
Very stable, very easy to ride, a lot of fun. But there's something about the Chaos that just adds a little bit to that fun factor. So.
Yeah. Little more out of control, a little harder to ride.
Yeah.
So number 4.
I think that's
was
4. That's 9R free ride, and I'd have to decide on the 146 and the 154, and then the Expert.
Oh, the
turbo.
Expert. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then the Boost.
All right. So I'm gonna run through my 4, and so I'm gonna do these. You can say whatever you want about order. So
now he changes the rules.
No, there are no rules. I said you could do either. Well, yeah, I said do them in order. All right. So at the same time, I'm going to load these 2 snowmobiles because the back of a ramp can do 2 wide.
Oh, right.
So I'm gonna stand on.
I want to see this. We're videoing this
and load like that
here in about a month.
No, I'm gonna do Cardi B.
Okay.
Like that. That's still just the experience at the end of the day. Like that sled makes me smile.
You guys had a connection.
No, we did. There's something special there.
There was something special there that day on the mountain.
There's a
That's
feeling.
why he's always riding solo.
Yeah.
Off of the trees by himself.
No, that's Brock.
Oh, that's Brock.
Yeah, that story's coming up.
Stance.
So that'd be the 25 Chaos Boost, and I'm right up there with you with the 9R, but I'll get to the 9R later.
What length did you go?
I'm going to do a 155, and I'm going to do the 325 track.
Okay.
I think the 325 track, and I've had a few people DM me on Instagram and ask about track lengths, and then a couple emails, and just talking about the lug height. Like, is the 325 track good everywhere? Like, I've done 275s the whole time, and wondering about getting the 325. And to me, the 325 is a better track everywhere.
Yeah.
I agree.
The only downside is it's heavier.
Yeah.
It's not terribly heavier. I think it was 6 pounds. You were at the
6 or 7.
Yeah.
about 6 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
But it's more durable. The lug. I mean, we had a 175 on a Boost Pro last year, and we had a 325 on a. No, we had a 275. Sorry, 275 track on a Pro Boost and a 325 track on a Pro Boost, and the 275 track tends to split lugs in bad snow or logs or rocks.
Yeah.
And we did, like that first ride
Yeah.
we went on, that you were there with Dave, and that ripped a couple lugs on that one, but the 325 track is durable. Like, it holds up a little bit better. And the traction is insane. It makes it feel like it's got a little more power because it hooks up quicker.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember we went to the Polaris early season, where they showed us the new sleds, and I remember thinking, Rhett sitting there going, is that longer? I don't know. They really go longer? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And, and even after they said it, we're like, all right, like, let's go see how this does. And then the minute you grab a handful, you're like, oh, all right. Yep. And that's what I remember. I'm just like, that's fun. Like, all of a sudden, you could feel the difference. So I'd do that all day long.
That's what we love about the 9R, right, is the bottom end. Like, the bottom end of a 9R just outperforms any other NA sled out there. And it's because the type of riding that mountain riders do, you want it, when you go like this, you want it to move. You don't want it to ramp up and go. You want it to move.
Yeah.
And a 325 track further amplifies that. So.
And Polaris already was good at that. So
getting up on top of snow really good. Yeah. So a Chaos Boost 325 on a 155.
Okay.
That'd be my number one, number two, top two. Second one is going to be a Summit Expert 154, 3-inch Turbo R. So top two are turbos.
Okay.
And the deciding factor on which of those sleds come out of the trailer is going to be snow depth. So if it's going to be a deeper, powdery day, it's going to be the Skidoo. Just because I like the way it handles. And if the snow is deep, that equalizes the weight difference because that Skidoo is going to be 20 pounds heavier than the Chaos. So if it's deep snow, I'll probably take the Skidoo. I like the way the power comes on better. I like the centralized mass feel a little bit better. And if it's deep snow, I don't feel the weight. If it's hard packed snow, if it's settled, if it's a year like this last season where rather than rolling into the snow, you're lifting the ski out of the snow, I'll be on the Polaris because I can feel the weight difference and it's just a better experience on a sled that's a little bit lighter. But those two sleds, if I'm just breaking down components and stuff, I do like the Skidoo Turbo R better. That's a better package. It's more centralized. I like the throttle response. The bottom end mid-range is better. Top end is pretty comparable. The Turbo R has been, and the Turbo before, the Turbo 160 and then the 180 Turbo R, those things have been dialed since they came out. And I feel like the Patriot Boost has had a progression.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Like 22, it was, and then 23, it was, this is noticeably better. 24, it's like, man, this thing rips. And then 25, it's like, this thing's dialed. This thing rips. The difference that you can feel, though, is the Turbo is mounted a little bit more off-center, so you can kind of feel the right side of the sled's heavier than the left side of the sled. Anyway, so there's my top two, and I'm in that same category you guys. I'd rather spend the day on a 54, 55, just because of the fun factor.
Yeah.
Number 3 is going to be a Cat 858, and I would probably go the Snow Pro route with the AC5S shocks.
Okay.
And if not the Snow Pro, it's going to be the black sled, the base model. And just because that sled was intriguing to me, like we had a very interesting spring.
Yeah.
With that, we rode the. Let's see. There was a media event that we weren't at, but then we rode the next day, and then we rode for the next 3 days on these pre-production cats, and it wasn't a great experience because the setup wasn't what it needed to be. And then we had an opportunity to go back up. The engineers were great, Alan and Shay and Andy and those guys did a really good job at creating another event opportunity for us to go up and test those sleds again. Totally different experience. That 858 flat out ripped.
Yeah,
and the bottom end was awesome. And the Alpha One skid under the catalyst, that thing feels good. Like it's not quite the finished product as a Skidoo, but Arctic Cat's always kind of been that way. It's a little more rugged,
a little more redneck.
But we had a black, a little more redneck. Who was that? Was that Ben that said that?
I think so.
Ben and Mav, and that was a fun ride.
It was a fun.
Like that was a really good experience.
It's the day I kind of damaged Taylor Peck's snowmobile.
Oh yeah, and
Sorry, Taylor.
That was a great experience. So I really I'm intrigued to go beat the crap out of your sled this year.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Because
excited for that.
We're not getting a test unit from them. But you're buying one, so
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks.
Problem.
I apologize in advance.
It's fine.
I'm going to treat it
I'll put
like
warranty on
like
it.
a test mule.
Put warranty on it.
But
Some insurance.
I'm intrigued by that. I'm not saying that that's the better sled. I'm just saying that if I'm having 4 sleds, that's going in my trailer because I'm so intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And then number 4 is a 9R. And
No free ride, huh?
and it's at the bottom. I mean, it's the number 4, but it's not necessarily at the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, no free ride, because to me the free ride was a fun experience, and I like the narrower track, and I like the rigid skid, and I like everything about the free ride, but it's heavier.
Yeah.
It's borderline 8-10 pounds heavier than an expert, because there's a little more reinforcement to it and everything.
Right.
The rear suspension's a little heavier.
But you can't go wrong with the 9R.
I enjoyed it, and you can't go wrong with the free ride either versus an expert. But I think ultimately the better mountain sled for what I like to do is the expert. But the 9R, man, you talk about just a ripper, like a race sled feel, without a turbo.
Yeah.
That thing is a blast.
Yeah, it runs good.
And the 9R would be the first one out of the trailer on a lot of days.
So to that point, like most people don't get to put 4 sleds in a trailer. So we're dreaming that we get to put 4, one for deep days, one for less deep days, one for a little bit of sunshine, one for a cloudy day. I mean, but if you just had to put one, like if you just bought one for the whole year, what one would it be?
Oh, really, Justin?
No, I'm serious, because I'm just sitting here thinking about this. I'm like, why am I not buying 4 sleds this year? You know, I mean, you obviously went and bought a new 858, so maybe that's the one that you'd put in for whatever reasons. And it doesn't even. I'm not even saying that, because there are a lot of reasons you buy sleds. Going back to even the marketing aspect. I mean, why would you buy the one that you buy? I think you love the 858. I think there's other ones that you like to ride. I'd be kind of curious, like if you didn't have the ability to go ride these other sleds throughout the year, would you have bought an Arctic Cat?
Probably, because I wouldn't have rode a Skidoo or Polaris, right?
Right, and that's kind of like what you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying.
That's kind of the dream scenario that we're in as test riders. Is we have a fleet of Skidoos, a fleet of Polarises, and one Arctic Cat to go out and we got I think we got a Lynx coming this year too.
Oh, nice!
And so
awesome.
we're constantly on these events where we have the best of all brands, and we're in the same day hopping back and forth, and not very many people get that opportunity.
Yeah,
and
it's a little different when you have to write the check. So whether it's the color or however you perceive it from what you've seen on social media.
It'd be interesting if they didn't come out with an 858 or even the new Catalyst chassis. Honestly, I'd probably be jumping ship and switching, to be honest with you.
But when you talk about like what's the one you would buy, that's a little different question, because as test riders, we're trying to evaluate, and test and talk about what's different and what's better and what works. Yeah, and there's not a bad sled in the group, but what we're doing is splitting hairs and talking about this one does this differently than this one.
That was a really dumb question.
No, it's a great question, because it brings the ownership question into it.
Well,
and there's so many more factors to ownership.
Maybe a little
than
more realistic.
Test riding.
Because I mean, really, like when I'm thinking about which sleds, like sometimes when we're thinking about which ones to put in, I mean, you really are. You're like, well, the sun was shining and there was
2 feet.
2 feet instead of 12, or 8 inches. Like, I don't know. And that's, again, that kind of goes back to like, ideal scenario. You'd have, this one for this day, this one for that day, because they all shine in different ways and different snow conditions, just like you said. I agree with you. The Skidoo, Polaris, Skidoo's a lot of fun when it's super deep.
You kind of go back to the price budget, because your 9R isn't much cheaper than a turbo.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Do you go an extra $400 and get the turbo? I mean, there's a little more factors into it when you're buying it.
That's a funny point, because to be honest with you, like I think I'd still want the 9R for a daily rider.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But in that segment, in the Skidoo though, I'd get the turbo all day long.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're very different, and they all have their strengths.
If I'm buying one, you're factoring in what kind of a discount can you get right off the bat, and then how's it going to hold resale value?
Yeah. How's
it going to hold up over a year or two of riding?
Yeah. Where do you ride? Who do you ride with?
Perceived issues that are going to come up. My one sled is probably going to be the Expert Turbo R 154, and if it's not that, it'll be a 9R. Mm-hmm. just because I can see myself doing a whole season on a 9R and being perfectly happy.
See, I'd probably be just the opposite of that. So, but I'd probably put the 9R in first.
Yeah.
I'd probably buy opposite what you two bought because I'd go with you two and ride your sled anyway. So.
See, that works. I'll get a Skidoo, you get a Polaris.
I was going to say, it really is personal. I mean, when we talked last night, we talked to a couple of different riders. I mean, I was thinking about riding groups. Everybody rides different. Mm-hmm. So even on the what we consider the high-end mountain segment, I mean, where you're buying a $20,000 to $24,000 sled, I mean, not everybody goes and just pounds the trees all day long. And,
for sure.
And not everybody goes and rides the meadows and does a couple hill climbs. But
right.
But I think all of that, maybe it goes even back to the screens and being able to locate your buddies. So all of that does factor into that idea of that one sled. So I'm just curious.
And as test riders, we always wind up talking about the top tier stuff, like the most expensive model out there.
Right.
But we spent time on the RMK SP and the Skidoo Summit Adrenaline.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with those.
No, they're actually quite impressive. I remember getting on an NA, was it an SP or something, or the
kind of the off-white.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is, because I think I just kind of get into you got to have the Turbo R. If you don't have the Turbo R and track lengths, and that sled was actually super fun. You could have a great time on that all day long and save some money and depending on your needs. So.
Yep. All right. Well, we got to wrap it up there. I got to go help Rasmussen get some stuff set up. But
sweet.
All right. Justin Stevens, Bruce Kerbs, test riders for SnoWest. Check out other episodes on YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you want to listen. If you want to watch, go to YouTube. Stay tuned for more episodes, though.